This review contains spoilers.
Hi, my name is Stereo Mike.
Hey everybody, welcome to a impromptu, off-the-wall, unscheduled episode of Nothing in Moderation. Hope everybody's doing well out there. First time we're doing a, on-video version of the show. So this is a bit of an interesting situation that we got going on here. So obviously Jed's not here to do the show. And that's okay. I already have something in mind of what I wanted to do for this episode of the show because we are both in the middle of productions of our respective shows. He's doing the Evil Dead musical, and I'm doing a production of Jane Austen's Emma. So with both those things happening at the same time, we find ourselves with very little time outside of those shows. So we landed on The Sound of Music as our next film, and that movie is 3 hours long, and so we find ourselves with not much time to dedicate to a 3 hour long film outside of the shows that we are doing. So, and we're busy doing other things as well in between those two shows. So I was thinking to myself, well, what could I do to sort of satiate you guys until we finally do our next episode? And I thought for a little bit about what I could do, and I thought, well, I did see Tron Ares, and I did sort of talk about it in our last episode, but I didn't really get to go in depth on my thoughts and feelings about Tron Ares to save you guys from spoilers and such. So I thought that I would take the time today to kind of give a bit of a deeper dive on what I thought about Tron Ares. So to give a little bit of background, I am a big fan of the Tron franchise. It is a series that I grew to love over time. It wasn't something that I immediately fell in love with. I did see Tron Legacy when that came out in theaters. I thought it was cool. I had a really good time watching it as a young lad. But I didn't love it. I didn't really... I didn't see what it truly was when I was, I guess I would have been 12 at the time. As time went on, I sort of grew to really appreciate Tron Legacy as a film and really saw it for what it was, and it was this really touching father and son story. And it also had a lot of really interesting themes about perfection and leaving behind something for others. And it also had to do with accepting your own flaws as well as the flaws that you see in others as well. And that led me to going back and watching Tron 1982, which is another film that I also kind of grew to love. I didn't love it at first, but I really did appreciate a lot of the things that it tried to do. And now, watching it again for the podcast, I really do love Tron 1982. I feel like it's a film that was really ahead of its time. It had a lot of really fun characters, a lot of really cool set pieces, amazing visual effects. So this is a series that I kind of grew to appreciate more and more as time went on, and now I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan. And I appreciate all the other ancillary Tron pieces of media out there, whether it be stuff like Tron 2.0, Tron Uprising, even the more recent video games by Bithell Games is really that initiative is very cool, and I really appreciate that. So, cut to 15 years after Legacy comes out, and we finally get the third installment, Tron Ares, a movie that I have been waiting for a long time. And going into the movie, I had pretty high expectations, I would say. I was really hoping that the movie would deliver on threads that were left untied at the end of Legacy. Things for the sequel to that movie that would hopefully pull from. And I went in, I saw it, and I thought it was I thought it was okay. I was really hoping that it would pull some loose threads from Legacy. It kind of does, but not directly. There's a lot of things that it sort of not, I don't want to say brushes under the rug, but it does kind of obfuscate a lot of those loose threads to a potential fourth movie, which kind of sucks because it's like, well, we've been waiting 15 years to see where these characters have gone and like what's happened to them. And now it seems like we're probably going to have to wait another 15 to 20 years, or possibly we'll never find out, which that's great and fantastic. Love that. But I did ultimately enjoy my time watching the movie. I just feel like that once I left the theater, I did feel a little empty. I didn't really feel like I got anything substantive from the movie. There's a lot of really great set pieces, a lot of amazing visual effects. The soundtrack is amazing. But I ultimately felt like the movie did not lend itself well to telling the story. And I think that the story and the characters are ultimately the movie's biggest weak link. But I will go ahead and talk about the things that I really did enjoy and really did like. Firstly, I think that the movie looks and sounds amazing. Like, there's no holes barred when it comes to the production value of the film. I loved all the visual effects, and I mean, you could look at the movie and go, yeah, that's an amazing looking movie. And I think that the best aspect of this movie, like without a doubt, is the soundtrack from Nine Inch Nails. I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. So when they were announced that they were doing the soundtrack, I was like, well, I mean, it's kind of perfect because they know how to use synthesizers in their music. And after Daft Punk broke up a few years ago, I thought, well, they're obviously not going to come back for another Tron film. And I thought to myself, as a hypothetical, who would be the best person for a potential third film? And I thought to myself, well, Nine Inch Nails would probably be the best option. And so when it was announced, it was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, oh, wow, I mean, I can't believe that they actually decided to go with these guys that I thought of. And it was kind of a match made in heaven. So, I mean, listen, I think that this movie's full of flaws. The soundtrack's not one of them at all. So, I think that the soundtrack is pretty perfect, and I wouldn't change a single thing about it. So, and there's a couple scenes here and there that I think are really genuinely good. There's a lot of really cool looking set pieces that flow very nicely. But I guess leading into the things that I did not like as much, I really did not click at all with the story in this movie. I think that this movie's weakest aspect is definitely the script. And some people will say that, oh, well, Tron's always been about style over substance. And I would argue that, no, it really hasn't. It's always been about the story. I think that the lights and sounds are what help elevate the story. And this instance, it is the opposite, where the lights and sounds don't really elevate the story at all. And it's more the story kind of just stays on a flat plane, and then you have like the effects and the soundtrack kind of hovering over it. Whereas like if you had the visual effects and the soundtrack on the same level playing field as the story, it would help lift that up even more. So it was very clear to me that they did not put as much love and care into the story for me. It just and not that there's like, I really don't have a problem with the logic of this universe. Like when they started 3D printing programs and vehicles into the world, that didn't bother me. I was like, well, that just makes sense for this universe. I mean, you have people being transported into computers. Stuff can go into the computers and come back out. That's just how it's always been. But I do think that the story, while also, while the plot itself is a little, it's a little shaky. I wouldn't mind that if the characters carried the weight of where the plot would be a little shaky. Unfortunately, I don't think the characters landed really at all for me. I think that Ares has an interesting idea behind him, but once again, the execution of Ares as a character it's really not all there. I think that he had potential to be a really interesting and deep character. I feel like they just didn't go far enough with Ares as a character. At the beginning of this, I always post that there's spoilers in this. It's probably going to be the same for this. So, but for real, like, this is going to be the hard cut where I'm telling you right now, spoilers. So, there's a point in the movie where Ares gets the opportunity to get the permanence code, and the permanence code is basically the MacGuffin of the film. It's the thing that everybody's going after. So he gets the opportunity to get the permanence code, and it'll basically make him human. But the movie never really digs deep into why Ares wants the permanence code, other than like, well, he's becoming more and more human as the film progresses. So the logical next step would be that he would want to be physically human. But the film doesn't reach out and grab me and tell me why. It doesn't really let me connect with Ares on that level, where I should really understand why Ares would want to be human. And I think there's a lot of really interesting ideas that they just don't really solidify into becoming really, really groundbreaking ideas. I think that the idea of a program becoming human is interesting, but they don't go far enough with it. So, and what I mean by that is, we sort of learn about Ares' like interests, but we don't really know about like his wants. Like, what does Ares really want other than being human? And like, I think that the film sort of poses interesting questions about humanity and like the impermanence of humanity. It's something that they like blatantly just tell you in the movie, that like Kevin Flynn, he shows back up in this film, and he says, well, I always called the permanence code the impermanence code. And it's like, well, thank you for beating the message over the head over my head for me, but I feel like I'm rambling. I feel like I've become a total psychopath rambling about this. But anyway, so I think the film taps into certain things that are interesting about the cost of becoming human, that like eventually you will die and that you will fade away. But it also doesn't really go far enough with it. I think it would be interesting for Ares to have the want to become human, and then maybe sort of hesitate because he'll eventually understand that the sacrifice is it's pretty costly. But the film just doesn't really go all the way with that. And so you have Ares, and he's got the potential to be interesting, but they just don't do anything really that interesting with him. And then you have the other characters of like the users. And so you have Eve Kim, who's the current CEO of Incom, and I think she's just kind of weak as a character. I really wanted to like her because I do like Greta Lee as an actress. But unfortunately, for Eve Kim as a character, they just didn't really give me... and I think that's the big thing about the characters in this film, is they didn't really give me a huge reason to care about them, which sucks because I there's the characters in 1982 and the characters in Tron Legacy. They all have reasons to like them, and I really wanted to see what happened to those characters. And in this film, it just felt like the characters felt like vehicles for the spectacle. And I think sometimes that can work. I feel like Alita Battle Angel is a great example of a film where the characters aren't the deepest, but they're likable enough to where when the spectacle and the action happens in that movie, I'm invested enough. And in this, it felt like the characters were a little too weak. So when the action was happening, it was cool to watch, and I had fun getting to see Tron stuff do Tron stuff. And but then it just kind of fizzles at a certain point where I just kind of stopped caring. And that was honestly the most disappointing part. It's like I'm seeing all this great these great visual effects being put on the screen, but there's no like soul. There's no heart in it. And I think that was really the biggest issue I had with the film, and why it just didn't really connect with me as much as the other two films. But I did like, there's, I think that if I were to point to one character in the film that I did actually enjoy watching, I would say it's probably Evan Peters as Julian Dillinger, just because he was the most batshit insane character in the whole movie. And he honestly put in a pretty fun performance. It was really fun to watch. Probably the only character in the movie with an ounce of soul, I would say. But just the other characters, they don't do anything for me, which kind of sucked. I guess if I were to try and describe this movie in one sentence, I would probably say it's the best feature-length music video I've ever seen. And I think on that basis alone, I see myself watching this movie again, just to kind of give it another shot, see if my mind changes. But I think on the base level, at the very least, this movie is enjoyable to watch on just a spectacle front alone. But spectacle does not a good movie make, even if it's really pretty and it sounds great, you still need the characters to back it up. And I feel like that's where the movie fails, unfortunately. It's just the characters don't don't land, which is it's a shame. But those are really my really jumbled and like unfocused thoughts. I really should have maybe written a script out for this, but I kind of wanted to keep the like sort of off the cuff style of our show, where we usually kind of go off of like notes and such. But I didn't even write any notes because it's a movie in theaters. I'm not going to write a bunch of notes in the movie theater, because how am I going to see those? I can't see in the dark. Anyways, I'm rambling. But those are basically my full thoughts. This is definitely going to be a shorter episode of the show, and I'm sorry to say that it's not the hour to hour and a half long usual, but I wanted to at least get something out this week, since, like I said, me and Jed are both busy. And if this happens again, I'll probably do something like this again, where it's just me talking directly to you about something, a movie I've watched or anything, maybe a TV show even. That'd be cool. But that's about it. Thank you guys for watching / listening. Really appreciate it. I hope that I made a modicum of sense in this episode. I feel like I just rambled for about almost 20 minutes, and probably not even effectively. But I just wanted to do something at least. So, anyways, thank you guys for watching and listening. This has been interesting. So, anyways, see you guys later. Bye.
LA.